That is a chair.
Oh,
so speaking of topics for conversation,
we should probably introduce ourselves since this is your introductory, whatever the hell this is going to be. So I'm Wally West. I'm here with my good friend, producer, and half the brain to my newest project, Matt Anderson of MillSound Studios.
I'm Matt Anderson, entrepreneur, businessman, owner of MillSound Studios in Mountain View, Arkansas.
And hella good friend to Wally West.
Hella good friend to Wally West.
Wally West and Lost Bound Souls. We just got done eating a phenomenal meal. It was some home-cooked raviolis and pasta.
It was a process.
This is true, but that's the whole thing. Like coming here to hang out with you every time, man. It's all about good food, good booze, and good tunes at the end of the day, or hopefully good tunes. But that's the great thing about it. We don't really give a shit what the rest of the world thinks about it. We just make music because
this is about you and me feeling really awkward together. And it's been a
beautifully
awkward experience.
This is true.
Much like
this is true. So we, just to fill the rest of you people who may or may not hear this in, a couple years ago, I came to Matt with this weird idea about getting together to make tunes. Matt creates things one way and I create things another way, and let's just mash those together and see what happens. And that's really what the project him and I have been working on for the past few years has been all about. There's no rules. The only rule was that Matt and I had to play everything on this record, whether it be bass tracks, drum tracks, or anything and everything in between. And whatever comes out, comes out. And it was all about making each other feel awkward in the creative process and seeing what happens. And I'm probably going to get rambly.
No, you ain't rambly.
If that's all right with you. But I toured around for the better part of a decade with people that I would more than consider family and still do consider family and can't wait to create with again. But life took its own turn, and I didn't want to play music. I didn't want to look at a guitar. I didn't want to do nothing about nothing. And Matt thought that was bullshit. And then when I started putting the feelers out to want to make anything again, he was the first person to bite about just getting together and let's make 4 songs and see what happens. And whatever it is, it is. So for the past few years, I've been coming out here to MillSound Studios in Mountain View / Herpel, Arkansas.
Herpel, Arkansas.
Yeah, I know. Herpel's the weird part about it, dude. I'm not going to lie.
Well, it's Mountain View, but the funny thing is Herpel used to be an unincorporated township right outside of Mountain View. There's a little house right by the studio that used to be the old post office for the unincorporated township of Herpel, Arkansas. So,
and that's the funny thing is every time I come out here, as much as I hate social media and I'm not good at it and all those things because I just want to live life and do what I do and whatever, I always want to share what this place is to me, and I always forget because it's so easy to get wrapped up in everything that this place is, and it's such a great spot to come out to because it's quiet. You get to connect with Matt and what the vision of MillSound Studios is. You get to connect with Dusty the studio dog. You make good food, you hang out, and it's all about art. It really is. And for somebody like me who's been trying to find their way back into what they are, but a better version of what they are, this place has really become a home. And driving the 9 or 10 hours or whatever it is from Austin, Texas to Mountain View, Arkansas every time it's more of an enjoyable journey than anything. And so I don't know. I can't even describe what it's like coming to create at this place. You just got to come and do it. And we're wrapping up this project we've been working on hit or miss for the past couple of years. I'll probably be coming back out in the springtime or hopefully sooner than then to wrap things up and get started on my next project. But it really is like coming home, and it makes me want to come and be creative again. It makes all those juices flow again. And I don't know, man. There's not enough, I guess, thank yous on my side of the planet to throw out to you and all that stuff. But I don't know.
Well, it's good you feel that way, because that's the point of this place. Like, a lot of the pull of this studio is just the surroundings and what it does to you when you come out here, because it's, as much as I'd like to toot my own horn and say I'm good at what I do, like I'm good at what I do, but that's only part of it. A lot of times the music industry is changing, so to a certain extent it's hard to just like be a full-time musician anymore and just, spit out songs and make money and make a living. That's not how it works anymore. Everyone knows that, There's a few lucky guys out there, guys and girls that, are full-time musicians and make music, but all the rest of us mere mortals have to, balance a full-time job and try to make this work to an extent. And, looking at it from that perspective, it's hard sometimes to force yourself to make music and try to do it at certain times. I work, like someone's like, I work a 9-to-5 job, and, I want to come home and make music. And, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And I think one of the cool things about this place is you come out to the middle of nowhere and it's a dry county. Lots of people want to come out here and drink. And, we do a little bit of that, but, you can't just go out to the bar. The nearest bar is like an hour and a half away. The town's really small. There's only a handful of restaurants. So when you come out here, you wake up in the morning and there's a creek and there's a bunch of trees, and, you talk about stuff and you have interactions, and hopefully that's like an inspirational process that wants to make you make music about, what's going on around you. And it's funny, we kind of knocked out, we didn't plan on having another song for this, but we knocked something out last minute. Yeah. And it happened very naturally.
No, for sure. It's the funny thing about this place is that, like you said, is not about, like if I got holed up with a studio in Austin, there's so many distractions around. But again, you come out to Mountain View, and it is a hike to get out here, and it's 2 hours of windy roads and all that. But you get some of the prettiest scenery in this country, and I've been all over this country, like I'm sure many people have. But the drive out here is just inspirational in and of itself. And like you said, you wake up every morning, you hear everything from birds chirping to the creek rushing by to sometimes mountain lions howling in the distance to, there's so much, and it's great. Like you said, you're in a dry county, which we shouldn't focus on this because it's not the point, but it has nothing to do with it really. But
it's one of those eccentricities.
It is an eccentricity because it's such a different environment for probably most people, that
it's a different kind of
but it's great though. Like,
sometimes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about it is in the last week, I got out. Well, today is Saturday. We got out of here literally last Saturday, mid-afternoon, and this trip, I should say. Within the first 24 hours of being here, you and I started writing a new song called "Fall Apart." We were wrapping up on some other songs that we've been trying to I guess wrap up for a few years now, and it's tough because I only get out here once a year because of other things in life, which isn't the point. But
it's not like we've been working on this for 2 years straight. Like, if we put all this together, it's probably 5 or 6 days of work.
Exactly. But the cool thing about it, man, like you said, is
it's natural. Those 6 days we've worked on this have felt very natural and not forced or rushed.
For sure. But it's not just about, being here, it's about, like you said, waking up in the cabin up where we stay, it's about rolling into town to go to the Mi Pueblito Mexican restaurant. Side note, they don't have black beans, so that's a point of contention for you. You should probably keep that in mind. But, and it's going to Yoder's General Store, and it's about going to the bistro and the music store in town to see Scott and Shay. And even though I come here once a year, it's interesting because the people in this town kind of have begun to know that I come out here every year to see you and to hang out. And I'm just that dude from Texas, you know what I'm saying? And it's a great feeling though, because you really get to know the town and all these little things about this town. It's great, from going to see Buddy at the Cave to seeing the folks out at Gravity Brew Works, and I don't know, it's an experience. You just gotta come and do it. And as much as I like Austin, I don't know that there's a better place for you to be in than Mountain View, and I don't know if there's a better place for me to visit you every year than Mountain View. Like I say, getting to know you. I mean, you and I are old friends at this point, but getting to know everybody in your town and all that stuff, they really give a shit about who you are and what you got going on. I think that's great. But to move on to a new topic, because I want to talk about my new girl. Been eyeballing this guitar out at the music shop out at Mountain View Music for 2-3 years now.
Yeah, like 3 years at this point.
And it was a long, awkward relationship, but I finally locked down a new lady in my life with I picked up a 62 Harmony Stratotone
the gold foil
with the gold foil pickup.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of, looks like, jealousy mail from David Stukenberg and Nick Santa Maria.
The funniest part of that is the first 2 years he came out here. So Mountain View is very much a traditional place in terms of what kind of music they play. They play old time music strictly, and so
we should explain what old time music is to those. It's like banjo music with like a banjo and a stand up bass, and that's about it. Maybe a fiddle, and that's kind of about it. Hammer claw stuff.
It's kind of like it. Yeah, it's bluegrass music to a certain extent, but it's much more rooted in culture and telling stories and oral tradition, bunch of stuff like that. Like old time music is about preserving tradition and a bunch of stuff. So, to most of us, when we hear it, we just think it's bluegrass, but it tells stories and it talks about the area and it talks about stories that, happen around here. So,
the cool thing about the area though, that most folks don't get to know, and I mean, it's something I've come to learn, is like the government, our federal government, has pumped money into this area to keep folk alive, because this is like the epicenter of folk music in America, like, which is crazy.
For
like
sure. Yeah.
Just a few miles. Well, I say a few miles, it seems like a few miles.
8 miles.
8 miles. Yeah, 8 miles. But you go down the gravel road 8 miles, and you pick up the paved road for a couple miles, but you're at the Ozark Folk Center. That's such a big deal. And there's so much. It's so interesting because when you drive out here, like you said earlier, like you're in the middle of nowhere, but at the end of the day, like you really stop and think, like you're in the hotbed of folk music. I mean, there is some world-renowned, like I can't state that enough, world-renowned banjo and fiddle players and dobro players that like have been born in tiny Mountain View, Arkansas, which is great, and I say tiny, but I mean,
we were listening to Grandpa Jones the other night at dinner. It came up on a Spotify playlist. And I was like, man, Grandpa Jones helped start the Folk Center. His one of his relatives is doing sound full time down at the Folk Center.
No, it's definitely cool.
It's crazy.
It's definitely cool, and I mean, just the musicianship of the people around here is like damn near second to none, man. Like it's crazy to think, because we're not in a metropolitan area. We as whatever I guess we are, like if it's not in the big city, we almost forget that it exists. But like, I think about like we're talking about Lucas and his wife over there at Mountain
Lucas
View.
Needon, yeah.
And Mountain View Music, like
Ozark
they're
Banjo
like
Co.
that.
Yeah.
That dude went to the Berkeley School of Music for
Yep.
what, banjo? Like
Yep.
that's crazy, right? And he's home.
I mean, he was playing at the Gospel Opry in Nashville last week. He
like that's a big
he
deal.
studied under Steve Martin. Like this guy is legit.
That's a big deal, man. Like, you know, and it's funny we forget, I guess, about like just the small towns that dot the landscape. I know when we made our first record, we recorded with Steve Pelusic out of Holland, and Steve's like, I mean, when you have Buddy Emmons write your liner notes for your solo record, like that's a big deal, you know.
Yeah.
But we often don't get off the beaten path to find these people, man. And sometimes the biggest talent lies in these little towns, and it's so amazing to see. But
I fell into this place, which is another crazy conversation. But it's just
well.
It's a crazy, silly place. It really
I wouldn't
is.
even call it silly. Like it just, you know, I mean, again, I live in Austin. If you want to talk about silly, we could talk for days. But
that's why I don't live there anymore.
Well, come on now. But no, it's cool, man. Like I said, everything from the people to they have these jams around the town square. Like you can go to the square in town, which I guess if you don't know what the square is, you should probably hang out in small towns before you come here. But they have hundreds. And when I say hundreds, I mean hundreds of people just hanging out, jamming bluegrass music from like Wednesday through like Monday. It is like stores will be closed and there'll be like 50 people on their front lawn on a Monday afternoon.
As long as it's not freezing,
just
there's
jamming
people out there.
Yeah,
Yep.
it is the coolest thing ever. And I don't know. Like, I don't know. Every trip out here for me has just been interesting. Again, 2 days ago, like we were hanging out at the house, and Matt had to run inside because there was a mountain lion. Today we went fishing for a little while. We had one that got away by default. I don't know. It's just cool. Like, and again, it sucks you're not closer, but I'm glad to make the drive any and every time. Like, it's not even a question. You know what I mean? Like
it's a fun getaway. Yeah, for sure.
I'd go home tomorrow and turn around and come right back if I could. But anyway, we should talk. About back to the point at hand was my new girl.
Your new guitar.
My 62 Harmony Stratotone. Been eyeballing this guitar for 2-3 years out there at the Mountain View Music, and finally got with the folks out there and brought it back to the studio to test it out. They were very gracious enough to allow that to happen. Thanks to Matt's good name in the community. They know where he lives, but
he has nice stuff, and we know where he lives, so we can get it back. They run off with
collateral. That's what it's all about. But now we brought that guitar back and hung out all night, it seems like, and just plugged it in, turned it up, and I like things kind of gritty and dirty, and this guitar just happened to be everything that we need, and we're gonna bring it back to Austin and give it some TLC with our good friend Andrew Framstead down there at South Austin Guitar Repair, and it's in pretty good fighting shape right now, but we're gonna push it over the edge, and I can't wait to bring it back to track with it and do crazy things.
Man, with those guitars, those Sears catalog guitars, like, it's hit or miss. Like, some of them just suck, and some of them, have some magic in them, and this one definitely had it.
I'm addicted, though. I rolled in here this trip with a 62K value leader, and Kay, it's my guitar's name. Nothing original about it, but Kay has been with me for a while now, and she's seen the ups and the downs, but she's always been growly and ready to fight, and I can't help but think that Harmony's going to do the same, and it'll be a good...
going with Harmony?
Well, we got bad reception from calling it Millie.
Yeah.
Part of me wants to call it Rocky after the crick.
Rocky?
Like the Rocky Bayou.
It's going to be a masculine guitar.
Rocky could be a girl. My little sister's name was supposed to be Rocky before it was Becky.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But no, I'm excited to add it to the, with Kay, and I got my 60s Conrad bass. Again, dropping a little nod to Andrew Framstead out there at South Austin Guitar Repair for hooking me up with that. But
he turned that one around.
For sure. But I got my 54K Country Western, which is Sweet Baby K. So I don't know, just keep adding them up, and can't wait to come back out and get my next Sears catalog guitar from Mountain View, Arkansas. Yeah.
Was that acoustic in there, Silvertone? I can't remember.
Which
at Mountain View Music, that older acoustic.
Oh, in the back.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was a harmony.
It was a harmony.
That was another
too.
harmony,
yeah.
man. And
that's next on the list.
If I can get him to sell it to me, I'll probably scoop it up. But so Scott, if you ever hear this, I'd love to buy that. He's
That's
probably
another good one.
Along with his like 1950s Gibsons and 1940 Gibsons and all that kind of stuff. But
Scott's into so much stuff. I think he's pretty much booked for the next 5 or 6 years.
Fair
in
enough.
terms of projects that he has on his belt.
Well, hopefully next time I come into town, he'll forget about selling me the Harmony, and I can try to scoop up the Harmony.
Harmony 2.
We'll see what happens. But so, well, anyway, why don't we talk about this project we've got going on? Why don't you give me your perspective on?
Man, one of the things we haven't talked too much about is the awkward aspect, which is hilarious. My music's a little bit all over the place, stuff that I've released just personally. Your stuff, how would you describe like Day of the Dead stuff? Like just what you've released in the past? Texas Dirt, I don't know.
Trying to define genres really pisses me off at the end of the day.
It's tough.
It sucks, man, because like, look, I just make music. You just make music, period. End of story. Like, I don't like the genre thing, personally speaking.
I don't think neither of us likes talking about our music. It's like, if you want to know what we
just
make,
listen.
go listen to it.
It's so simple, right?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. I want to make my music and have you listen to it, and then,
No, it's funny, like the first couple songs I wrote,
all that to say, everything on this is very different from what either of us has ever done.
Which was the point. Like, the entire point of this project was for us to hang out and just make some shit up and just make each other about as uncomfortable as we could be in the creative process and just see where it goes. So, like the first song we started working on was a song, I guess we're calling One. I don't know if it's going to be the name or not, but back when Matt was in Austin,
we demoed that in my bedroom in Austin before I left.
For sure. No, it was literally like the week before you left, and I'd thrown the idea out to Matt that I wanted to do all these little EP projects with people that I normally wouldn't create with, because historically speaking, I've never co-written with anybody except for my buddy Lazy J, and co-writing for me is just awkward. So I hollered at Matt and was just like, look, I hadn't played in a while. Music didn't do me dirty. I guess I did me dirty in the long run, but like I became very recluse to music for a little while. And luckily people like Matt here at Mill Sounds and my buddy Nick Santa Maria and oddly enough Andrew Framstead and a bunch of other people, Moonshine Mike,
oh yeah,
I guess Moonshine Fred. none of them would let me quit, and they wouldn't accept I'm done for me at all. But I talked to Matt and said, look, what I want to do is like these little 4-song EPs with a bunch of different people from Matt, because Matt creates differently than I create, and so let's mash that together and get awkward. I've talked to some DJs, electronic type music. I've talked to just other songwriter buddies that I have. I think that's the pump right there for the...
that's the water pump.
The water pump, exactly. So if you come out to Mill Sound Studios, you get a mineral bath every day when you take a shower, which is awesome. It's like a spa. But
we've literally got a spring by the gristmill that the house and the studio pull water from. So,
well, now that the pump's done, but
apparently that was the perfect time to pull some water.
Perfect. No, but... So I explained all this to Matt, and Matt was the first person to go, you know what, I'm game. Like, we're good friends. Like, this is cool. Let's do this. Like, he was very interested and still is very interested in me finding my voice again. And one day I was coming over to hang out. We were supposed to go drink beers and hang in the pool because that's what you do in Austin when it's hot. And I said, hey, man, like, I got this riff. Like, why don't you listen to it and tell me what you think, and, you know, if it's shit or not. And I played it, and we did not go to the pool that day because Matt and I sat around and tracked the demo all day. And it became the first song of this project called One. And One is all about, I don't even know how to describe One. I guess it's about the feeling of, like, you know, everything in America today is so one thing 1 minute and the other thing the next minute. So to me personally, it's a very schizophrenic feeling. It's a very odd thing because what's cool and okay to think 1 minute just is completely not at all socially acceptable like 5 seconds later. So it's
funny enough, a little bit of it's about getting out of your own head, which was totally appropriate for like figuring out a song to start out a project like this.
For sure. So we started with that, and then I came to Matt and threw him another idea for the song We Are Only Animals. And the premise of that song is all about how we forget, I think, as human beings that's what we are. Scientifically, we're animals. And at the end of the day, like, we're no better than the wolves outside the door or the dog running around the house or whatever. Like, we're all just animals. We may be more sophisticated, which I would probably disagree with, but that's just what I do and how I think. But so we rolled through with We Are Only Animals, and then I think it was my last trip out here to Mountain View. I got here about 2:00 in the afternoon, and Matt didn't want to work, and we got to talking about some other idea about why people sing, whether it's artistically or just in this world in general. I think we had a few sips of some Angel Envy whiskey. And by a few sips, I mean a lot of sips. And next thing you know, we're banging on pianos with dulcimer hammers and got starting on this song, which we don't have a title for. So our friendly title for it while we're in the studio is just the Schizo Beat song. And then this last trip.
This trip, yeah.
I get, yeah, exactly.
2 days ago.
Exactly. The trip we're here on right now is we just got to jamming. Got some new gear, rolled in here, and just started messing around on the guitar and drums. And that was classy. Mm-hmm. High level podcast stuff right there. But no, we came up with this song called Fall Apart. And I guess the premise of that song is all about, you know, everything that's going on, and it's
about people being assholes and ruining the earth.
What?
Ironically enough, we don't get too hippy dippy very often, but this one kind of fell into that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about falling apart, you know. And you know, there's a verse like Matt said about it being about the earth and everybody and all this, and then of course my verse, I got to make it all about me because, you know, it's all about me or nothing, I guess. But no, and it's all about, you can just watch me fall apart, and I don't know. I mean, shit, man, dude. Half of this art thing, we were talking the other night at supper. The reason I get on stage is to tap dance on that line of having it together and literally falling to pieces in front of a group of people, a group of strangers. And
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. There's nothing like that to me in the world when you're playing live in front of people and stuff could just fall apart. And I guess, I mean, especially if you talk to the guys that I ran around, hopefully we'll be running around with again here in the near future, making music with for the past better part of a decade. That was the whole premise, was nothing was ever the same way twice, and it was always about figuring out on the fly and potentially falling apart in front of a group of people, because that for us is, I guess, sadistic maybe. It sounds like, you know, that's what it was all about, because it was, you can practice your show. to where it's perfect and it's the same every night, but do you really want to live like that? That's like artistically for me, at least. I mean, that's what makes things hard is like perfection. Perfection's so boring.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's uppity to say or something.
No, it's not. Dude, it's different for everyone that comes out here because we got a bunch of different people that roll through the studio and, to hear, some of them love playing live. And like you said, they want that interaction between the crowd and them. And, that's what really gives them something special. They need that interaction. Other people, kind of like me, just don't like playing live at all. And it's more about the process of creating something. You spit out a recording and, that's what you get out of it. So I don't think it's uppity at all. It's just, different strokes for different folks more than anything.
Very true. Very true. I don't know. It's just one of those things, man, where I mean, all I want to do is make art, and I don't want to make anybody's art. I want to make my art, because at the end of the day, like someday when I'm holed up in a hospital bed or something, or whenever I take my last breath, I want to die like knowing that I told the world everything I had to tell it. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's sometimes it's about performing because it's about connection, but at the end of the day, like because there was a while there, like I forgot about that. We got so wrapped up in other things and trying to play the game and all that stuff that you forget why you really do it. I mean, at the end of the day, the two big reasons that me and the guys kind of got into it with the band and everything was to travel and to say what we had to say to the world, and at a certain point, like we forgot about those. Now I shouldn't say we, because I shouldn't speak for them. If anybody, it was because of me. I forgot about those things, was trying to like provide a life for those guys that they wanted. None of us want to work day jobs. Let's be honest. You just want to jam out and make music your whole life. And we just wanted to travel out around doing that. And we got really close and things were great. But on the same token, like you kind of have to go down a dark path to do that sometimes. And sometimes you sacrifice your art for that. And I felt like the sacrifice for the art became a big thing about it. And I don't know, man. So anyway, moral of the story is like now let's just make some fucking music, man. At the end of the day, like just create some stuff, and if people want to get on board, that's cool. If not, like I ain't gonna starve because of it now. Back then I might have, but
yeah, again, fortunately, I think both of us are in a place in life to where, we can throw whatever we want at the wall and see what sticks and kind of roll with it. We don't have to prove anything to anybody. We don't. If this doesn't make any money or anything, who cares? It's not about that. It's about expressing things and just trying things. And
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Speaking of expressing things, can I express one thing?
Uh-oh.
Look, I love your little town. I love Mountain View. I love the people of Mountain View because they've been nothing but kind and accepting. But can we like start a campaign to find some black beans in this town for the love of God, man? Like we got tortillas, which are great. We got a lot of good food, but black beans, like maybe it's because, the whole Austin Tex-Mex Mexican food thing. But that's the one thing. That's the hardest thing coming to Mountain View is not getting no black beans, man.
Yeah. I have to have a word with a few people.
Start a hashtag or something.
I don't think that's how it works out here.
It definitely is. I'll buy a full page spread in the paper.
Yeah, you're gonna have to buy stuff in the paper and like call your congressman out here.
Well, if it's anything like the booze game where you got to pack a trunk full yourself when you come out here, otherwise you're driving 45 minutes in one direction to go get some beers, which is worth it because again, Gravity Brew Works are some of the kindest.
Gravity's awesome. We
best
hit that
people
up
ever,
every time you're out here.
For sure. And they got that that guitar in the corner. You just
the Esteban
the
guitar.
Esteban. But you pick up the Esteban, you tune that sucker up, and you play for a little while. You get a couple of free beers, but they're great. They're sweethearts out there. But maybe along with the beer hall or the booze hall, I got to start bringing some black beans or something. Not that it's about the booze or whatever, but you work hard, man. You cook some good steaks. You just want a couple of beers at the end of the night, like where you're sitting around listening to the mountain lions scoping you out, like you know.
Well, Wally, I gotta say that's some genuine white people problems. If you got one thing to complain about, it's the beans.
We just call those first world problems.
First world, okay, fair enough.
You've been
I'll
out
contest.
here too long. We should probably cut
problems.
that part out. But
No.
Oh man, what else you want to talk about, man? This is like episode number 1 of the podcast.
I know. Who knows how long we've rambled at this point?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about
cutting stuff out.
Well, that's cool and cute and everything, but you want to talk about the gear you have here at Mill Sounds? You want to talk about the history here? You want to talk about, because I think it's all pretty unique. I mean, you run a pretty lean ship, but at the end of the day, man, the sounds and the tones and the things that you got pumping out of this place are pretty interesting to me. I mean,
we've got a couple of pieces of cool gear out here, but again, like you said, it's kind of lean because at the end of the day, I don't want to spend a ton of time, going through a bunch of different mics to see what sounds good and changing out preamps and compressors and stuff. Like, I'd rather spend 20 minutes out here going over a part with a person to make sure what they're playing's good, as opposed to changing out a bunch of gear, because especially the last 5 or 10 years, technology's blown up to the point where
it's
everything's good. You don't have to spend $1,000 or $2,000 on a mic that's gonna sound good. You can spend like $400 now and $300 and get something good. It's not about getting. I mean, I've tried to buy a lot of good gear out here because I enjoy what I do, and it's a passion. So I spend money to get some good gear, but that's not what it's about. It's about all the other stuff, because it doesn't matter how good your stuff is. You gotta make sure
if you don't know how to use it.
Yeah, and if what you're picking up doesn't sound good, why bother?
For sure.
So this was all about investing in a place that's really cool, in the area and stuff, because I'd rather spend 10 minutes outside fishing and catching some fish and then coming back in here and getting a good take, as opposed to spending, $10,000 on a microphone when you're sitting around on some crappy street in the hood, That's just me.
It's all good, man. No, that's always been the coolest thing here, man. Like, you keep things lean, but the pieces that you have, how to use them in it seems like every possible manner, whether it's, a microphone or a piano or a way to mic something and make it crazy. Like, that's always the coolest thing to me. And, a lot of the stuff like we've been working on is very guitar driven. And it's guitars that the sound of them wouldn't be normally what you or I, would put together, or would be our tone, if you will. But it's always crazy to me. Like, you got you got some great amps and all that stuff. And next thing you know, we got a rat's nest of cables going everywhere, routing everywhere, but it gets that sound and it's great, and you capture it, phenomenally. So that's always, I don't know. I always think that's half the fun of coming out here, is just plugging shit up and however it needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the gear thing, I don't want to keep going back to that, but I have a bunch of people saying, man, you need to make sure you list every single thing you have on your website in terms of gear and stuff. And again, like, I purposefully don't really list what I have out here, because I'm not trying to sell a bunch of gear, because when you're in a bigger city like Austin or somewhere where you have a bunch of studios to choose from, like, I can understand when you want to look through their gear lists and stuff because you have choices. But it's not about having choices. It's about you think that this place is a good fit for you. And I understand for a lot of people, you're not going to want to drive 9 hours for every single project to come out to the middle of nowhere. Like, this isn't a good all the time fit, and this isn't a studio where I'm pitching where you want to come out here all the time necessarily.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what though, man. So, back in the day before I moved to Austin, I used to live on the ranch and everything. You've been out there before, and me and a good buddy Andrew used to live out there. Andrew plays harmonica for us and all that stuff. We call him Pappy, but we shouldn't call him Pappy no more. But no, it was interesting because when we lived out there, it was all music all the time, and that, I mean, Andrew is a great sounding board for songwriting ideas, and I can't tell you how many times that dude has tried to scribble down on pizza boxes or something or other, like anything that was coming out of my mouth, because I don't know, I'm just not one to write all those things down all the time and whatnot. But and especially we started getting busy, and even being out on the ranch, which was my creative like epicenter. It was also very hard to, as things progressed with us in the band and everything, and we got out more, like it was very hard to keep that creativity flowing. And I'm usually not one to write songs in a very quick manner, because I don't know, the words mean everything to me, and I overanalyze things and what have you. I'm a very left and right brain person, which is not like a normal artistic person at all. But it's interesting coming out here, just the vibe of the studio, the vibe of the area, the vibe of just getting off the grid essentially for a whole minute, dude. It's just like everything flows out of you so much easier. It's like listening to the water flow down the creek there, the Rocky Bayou Creek. The same thing happens just with the creativity here, and it's so easy to work with, and I don't know, just get it all out. Like I can't even describe it, man. Like, it's crazy.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's obviously it's
the
worked
water.
out.
It's definitely the water.
Something in the water. Yeah, it's worked out great for you, and I'm glad. But I know a lot of other people that come out here. In the same token, it's not a good always thing. It's a good sometimes thing for some people. But for others, I know I kind of got sick and tired of living in big cities, and especially sometimes working with bands in big cities. It's just so distracting because, when you're 20 minutes from home, it's almost like driving to work sometimes. So, you go into work and you do stuff, and, sometimes you got to go home early, and you get in, it's less about being in the business of recording people and doing music, and more in the business of wrangling people. It makes it a whole lot easier out here, because a lot of the fight is convincing people to come out here. And once you've convinced them to come out here, I think first time they come out here,
that's addicting.
It starts making a lot more sense. And you're like, man, I'm out here. I have to do this. I can't just drive home at the end of the day. I'm stuck out here, and I have to do something.
Stuck is probably not the right word.
No, well,
I mean, it's a pleasant thing,
I think it can be a good realization sometimes. You're out here and you have to do it, and you have no choice. That pressure can be a good thing sometimes.
Well, that's the whole thing in a nutshell, though. Like, I don't feel like I've ever been pressured to do anything out here, which I think is the best form of release more than anything. But yeah, I wouldn't ever say like I'm stuck out here or anything. I mean, the truck's right across the road there. Like, I could get up and giddy up anytime I want to. But at the end of the day, man, it's just there's something about the woods around here, and the holler that you're in, and like I said, the people in town, and the sounds when you wake up in the morning, or when it gets dark outside, or what have you, or taking the dog for a walk up the road a couple times a day to take a break from the recording process. Of it. I don't know, man. There's something there's something going on, and it's
Puts
real
you in a
special.
different mindset for sure.
For sure, it is exactly it, my friend. So what else should we talk about? Should we talk about the sports ball that you avoid?
Sports ball.
I mean, I hope Texas won today, but that's a whole other discussion, I guess. If they didn't, we play Kansas and that'd just be bad, but we ain't got to get into that. But I don't know.
We pretty much ran the gamut, man.
Ran the gamut?
That was a good confab.
I guess. I mean, for your first whatever this is. I mean,
if this will continue as a
it
thing.
should. I think you should talk to everybody that rolls through your door, especially if it's Buddy from the Caves, because Buddy's like the Morgan Freeman of Central Arkansas.
We're gonna have to pull him in for some voiceover.
Not even lying. Side note: if you have a chance to come out here to Mill Sounds, make sure that Matt takes you to the Blanchard Spring Caves and you go see Buddy, because that dude's tour is second to none. Again, he's like the Morgan Freeman of Central Arkansas. Amazing storyteller, orator, vision quest guide, whatever you want to call him, but it's all good stuff. But what else you want to talk about, man? You can chop this up later. It doesn't really matter.
I know. I think we need to wrap it up. Talked enough.
Did we?
That's a good.
Did we?
I'm gonna go look.
Why does that matter? We just hang out and talk.
Because this is gonna be longer than RDP.
That's cool. You want to talk about politics? We can do that too. Probably a bad idea, but you know.
For a good 48 minutes.
48 minutes. Well, we should cut this whole thing out about us talking about how long we've been talking about.
Definitely should.
But if you'd like to wrap things up, Matt, my good friend, it is always. Let's try that.
Oh God, can you hear us shaking hands?
Yes, that should be it.
It's having a moment.
It's always a pleasure to come out and see you, my friend. I'll be sad to leave tomorrow to head back to Austin. However, I will be writing and finish writing the things I need to write to come back out here as soon as humanly possible, even if it is in the winter. We'll figure that out. And, hopefully you spot some more Sears guitar or Sears catalog guitars for me out here in the meantime.
Keep an eye out.
Make me go broke.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate it. Anyway.
Signing out.
Signing out from Mill Sound Studios.
Get in the house.
Get in the house.
Get in the house.